Would you like to get some personal?
Oh.
Okay. Now we can start, right? Okay, thank you. All right, good morning, everybody. We'll go ahead and get started. We have some folks that have some time constraints. Okay. Now we can start, right? I was saying, all right, good morning, everybody. We'll go ahead and get started. We have some folks. Okay. Now we can start. I was saying. That's gonna be a slow move. Okay. So we'll try this again. Good morning. Thank you, everybody, for making time to be here today and online. And we're gonna jump a little out of order. Don has someone to introduce, first of all, and also some comments that he'd like to make to kick us off. So.
Yes, thank you. The first thing I want to say is thank you all very much for allowing me to have the pleasure of working for the Maryland Food Center for you. It's been a really good career, and I've had plenty of time to rethink all the things that happened. So I want you to know that I appreciate that. I also wanted to thank Gail and Susan for the event that they took us, invited us to, which was the Maryland Agricultural Council Taste of Maryland event. It was incredible. I mean, the food was just awesome. The speeches were great. The governor was there and Secretary Addix was there. And it was just really a fun event. And there was one area where there was like a little disco thing going on. And Peggy and I got out there and made our own little video. It was a great time. So I appreciate the invite, and that was a really wonderful event. I also want to thank Miriam. Miriam has been working, like 7 days a week, 4 hours a day. Right? So, I don't know if all you know, she wears 2 hats. So she's principal counsel to the Maryland Food Center Authority, and she also works for the Department of Housing and
Community Development.
And we've had a lot of issues pop up within the last 2 months, and it's just been total involvement by the staff and by Miriam. So she's been giving us all the time that she can. And I can say that she's never not picked up my phone. So I appreciate that. And I just want to thank her. And then I want to thank my staff for supporting me all through all these years. And I appreciate everything you've done for me, especially in the last couple of months. I know it's been trying because, people are a little bit anxious about what the next step is going to be once I leave. And I just wanted to thank you all before we got into the meeting. This is my last board meeting, so it's important to me, and I appreciate that you all came today. I want to thank you guys out there as well. So thank you.
Thank you for your leadership all these years. Okay, so I think we'll go through the regular agenda, right, at this point. And again, something.
Can I take a moment, let Angela introduce our new.
Oh, yes.
You want me to do it?
Yeah.
I'm happy to do it.
Sorry.
So we have a new face in the room. This is Mary Wilkerson. Back in November, when we were doing the new budgets, we had talked through hiring a new employee who would be the new me, if you will, someone who had all the same credentials that I had so that I could start to push some of the work, because I was very overburdened, some of the work that I was doing onto someone that could handle that level of responsibility. And so we were very lucky that Mary came to join us in January. She has her CPA. She is also she also has her master's degree in the St. John's Hopkins program in real estate. So we were really lucky that we got her, and hopefully she wants to finish out her career with us. And she is just absolutely fantastic. So welcome, Mary. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Okay. We'll move into approving the minutes from the last meeting, which was back in November, and then additionally our special meeting in January. And one motion for both or two motions?
One for both is fine.
Okay. These were sent out earlier as well, if you have a chance to look at them. If anyone has any additions or corrections, otherwise I'll entertain a motion to approve both sets of minutes from November 14th, 2024 and January 15th, 2025. Thank you, Susan. Is there a second? Thank you, Wendy. Any further conversation? All in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Behind as well, just wave or something. It's approved. Right. We'll move into additional Food Center Authority updates, and I'll put back to Don. Do you see those?
Yes, thank you. The issue I'm going to talk about is actually, looks like, it's task order 5. Back in, January of 24, we brought the committee was formed by the board to look at contracts that exceed a certain amount, and that they would then have the power to approve it. Because there's a lot of detail in these contracts, and it was going to be too much of a burden for each one of you to have to kind of process all that information and then be able to make a decision. So you all very smartly created a committee to look at those things closely, which I think is something that other agencies do as well. And so you all approved an amount back in 1/25/24, and there has been a submittal for an increase in the task order 5. Now, task order 5 really deals with the front end of construction. It's all the work that engineers and architects have to do prior to being able to put out a bid and select a contractor. And their update to their the last task order was $63,080, and that additional work includes the mechanical and electrical engineers resulting from the tenant's input regarding how cool to make the units, and then also we had a dry pipe sprinkler system that had to be included in the drawings, which is something we didn't have, but the county, after reviewing the documents, said we needed a dry pipe sprinkler system. And then we also had to do a change in our forestry reforestation. When we're looking at the design of the back of the market, we actually expanded to our property line so that we could get some additional parking in the market, and that required us to add some additional green space. And so we went out and inspected it and went back and forth. One of the major delays in the project was with respect to getting information from PG&E. The electrical engineers needed to know what the tenant's usage was, on average, so that they could calculate how much more that they could put on the existing lines and how much, and what existing lines might need to be run. So they finally got the information. They were finally able to go through the information and make decisions about how much of an upgrade to the wiring needed to be done. And then they have to incorporate all that into the drawing that were originally laid out. So I think that it says 13,860,000 was for the test pits. They had to dig these test pits around the areas where they were going to lay another water line. between the two markets. So they had to figure out, with test pits, where the existing water line was. And that cost some money. That was 13,860. And there was 4,620 for the forest conservation work. And then there was 44,600 additional work of the mechanical engineers and the architects. And we also had to install a smoke detection system, which is another requirement of the county. And so I think you can see that the fees, in my opinion, when I reviewed them, I knew things were going along, like talking to the architects and engineers all the way. And I'm happy that the amount that it increased is now more than it did. I thought it was a fair estimate. I know that they employed a professional estimator to go over the estimates that we have on the cost. Trying to make sure that they're reasonable and seem consistent with similar work that's done around the state. So I feel really good about their estimate, and we needed to update all of this because we have an MOU with the Maryland Department of Agriculture, and so we were putting together the MOU. I'm just going to roll right into the next thing. Most of you, I think, know that Governor Hogan allocated $10 million for the expansion project behind the produce market. And the county executive, Executive Ball, he also committed $2 million from the county. We had 12 there, and then we have 3 that we've committed to the expansion project as well. And so we wanted to make sure that we have all of that written down, especially when you have a budget that's being looked over and where extra money might be and everything. And so we wanted to have a document that supported the need for the 10 million and the 2 million to be kept. The 10 million goes through MDA. So the MOU is between Food Center, MDA, and it states all the requirements between the two agencies with respect to making withdrawals from the 10 million, the kind of paperwork we need to provide Department of Ag, so that they have they're covered by transferring the money to us. The Department of Ag had a state budget analyst who reached out to me because they were surprised at how much of a delay there has been in the construction of the market. And he needed to reconcile that. And so I sat down with him and explained to him just what I'm telling you, which is basically the task order box. And we finally got him on board. He understood what was going on. And then we just wanted to make things completely clear with MDA. I wanted to make sure that we had the MOU done between the two agencies and fully executed before I left. So that's still my goal. Miriam worked like a champ and incorporated documents that we had from the engineers and architects and an existing rough draft that we had done a while back. And I'm hopeful that I'll be able to execute that and have a nice working MOU between us and NBA. Any questions on either one of those, the task order or the MOU?
I just had a question because I'm not used to looking at these types of contracts. But on the ECP and Redline SDP revision, December 6th, it's page 6 of 10. It talks about hourly work included in the proposal and extra work that we're requested to perform will be billed at the following hourly rates. And then the last sentence in the next paragraph reads, changes in our standard rate schedule will be reflected in your monthly invoices. So are they indicating that you cannot count on the hourly rates that they are quoting you for the contract and that they could raise these rates as the project proceeds, or is that standard? I don't know.
Well, we have a long-term relationship with the architects, and they are extremely familiar with all of our facilities and everything. They contract out like the civil work and some of the electrical work because those are very disciplined areas, and they don't deal with those issues on a day-to-day basis. And the relationship we have with them would preclude them from doing something kind of sinister or dubious. I think that might reference that there's a change in scope of work or something like that. They will, they always have been completely transparent with us. So if we had a question as to what would the rate, did it change or anything like that, we could call them out.
May I?
Yeah.
So that's a great question, because the legislative auditors asked the same question during this past audit. And so what I was able to explain to them is that the contract amount that you see here, that on the first page or the second page, that dollar amount, that's the amount you're approving. This is not a time and materials contract. So what will happen is if something happens and we need to add a change order, then they have to provide all the same documentation to be able to do that change order. So it confused the legislative auditors as well. Why are there rates in here? Why there shouldn't be rates in here? Because it's not a time and materials contract. So we just basically told the legislative auditor, they can ignore that because they see in our procedures, it would require a whole new change order for us to go above what the amount is of performance. Thanks. I appreciate it.
But we do need to approve the increased amount of this initial work.
Yeah.
Right,
I
okay.
don't want to bother you all with a bunch of acronyms, but TO5 stands for Task Order 5.
So with this preliminary work, that's the best way to describe this.
We're still in the architectural and engineering stage.
Okay. So the board had approved an amount of $526,135, and we need to increase that to $589,215, which is an increase of $63,800. And that's due to the revised scope of the project. And that's what was included in what Don just described. So I will entertain a motion to increase TO number 5 for GAB, a previously approved amount of $526,135 to $589,215. Motion to do that. Thank you, Terry. Is there a second? Anybody behind me?
This is Quilt, second.
Seconded, all right. Any further discussion or conversation? I think that's just the sign of the times, and again, we're fortunate that it's only 63,000. So, okay, all in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Those same
Aye.
sign? Okay,
Aye.
good. Okay. And then Angela, you want to go into the legislative audit update?
Yeah, and also, really quick, thank you, Don, everything for the last 20 years. I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for your leadership. Oh, now I'll try to talk after saying that. Good morning, everyone. So back in November, I received the email from the legislative auditor letting me know that they'd be here the next day. And that's standard operating procedures. So don't think they were just trying to call us out, and that's just what they do. They don't give you any warning whatsoever. So they let us know that they would be here the next day. And the purpose of the legislative auditors is that they're trying to determine if the MFCA is following our statute, following all relevant laws, following our policies and our procedures. And it's supposed to happen every 4 years. And when I got that email, that was at 3 years and 8 months. So they were a bit early, and I did of course, had the conversation with them in a joking way that, y'all, really. And so when I got that dreaded email, and I say dreaded because it is just such a significant disruption to the Food Center Authority. Not only do we have constant meetings with them so that they can get an understanding of what it is that we do, then they need to understand all of our policies, procedures, and hear from each employee what it is that they do. Then the next wave is that they come in and they'll say, now we need documentation, so now we're pulling documentation. Then after that, after they have the documentation, then they're asking all their questions about the documentation. But the audit is broken up into multiple different departments, if you will. So you've got payroll, you've got procurement, you've got cash receipts, and cash disbursements. And just because they're at one stage on one of these does not mean they're at all stages. So it's just wave after wave after wave. And so I would tell you at least half of my day, every day, has been spent doing a legislative audit. And again, countless meetings that the staff has also been a part of. But I will tell you the same thing that I told the legislative auditors at our entrance conference, and that is there really is value in these legislative audits. We have the opportunity to find weaknesses that we haven't been able to identify on our own, and that only makes us better. And that's all I ever want for the Food Center Authority, is just to make sure that we're operating as effectively and efficiently as possible, so we can keep pushing forward, so we can accomplish our goals and our mission. Now, the auditor said at our entrance conference that the work would take 1 month, which of course I giggled at, because I know it is not going to take 1 month. And I can happily report now that the auditors are finished their field work 4 months later. And so the MFCA, we have our exit conference scheduled next week with the auditors. And at this point, the report is still confidential. And at the next meeting, I'll be able to share the final report with everyone. And also at our next meeting, I'm also going to share you a chart that I do pretty regularly with the board, just to explain the differences between an independent audit that we do every year and a legislative audit that we do every 4 years. It just helps give an understanding of the similarities and the differences. And while I can't disclose the details of the report until next meeting, I will say that the results are good. I will say they're very good. I will say they're extraordinarily good. And I will say they're historically good. And when I can finally share the news with all of you, it's going to clearly show the strength of this organization and how well we all work together and the amazing job that everyone who is on this team does every day. And it's going to be clear with what we accomplished with the results of this legislative audit, which I will share in detail at our next meeting. That's all that I have. If anybody has any questions on the legislative audit, happy to take any. I know our state folks, whoa, when you hear legislative audit, it's great, but it really is a disruption. That's all that I'll ever say.
Yeah.
Ours has run for 9 months.
Oh.
Never seen one this long before.
I'm so sorry.
Almost. Well, thank you. Appreciate the update. I know that's been an added burden on top of lots of other things, so. And Gary, I think we have updates on the market renovations.
Yes, so next we'd like to take an opportunity to thank Don for everything he's done, with the staff, so. Recently, at the Rental Market Center, we had 6
You need to speak up for the folks.
Oh, okay. Thanks. So recently, we had 6 units that were returned to us from the Rental Market Center. So this is the perfect opportunity for the MFCA to renovate these units. We will completely gut them. We've done this in 2018 with approximately 17 units. So our team has quite the experience in this project. The board already approved $660,000 for AE and construction costs. So there's no motion needed for this. Angela has shared with me that we already have 5 of the 6 units that we're going to renovate spoken for. And we will bring this back to the board when it comes time for bid, because it should exceed the $500,000. Do you have any questions on that?
Which had 16 units.
No, we had 6 returned to us. We had a total of 7 that were
And 5 already spoke.
5 were.
Great.
And I'll also say that I had not even gone to the wait list yet, and 5 are gone.
What's the process? You know, how do you get this?
How did we get them? We'll talk about it in close.
And what's the length of time for renovating those?
So it'll take about 4 months. Yeah.
But we will be going out for bid, and once we know the dollar amount, this board has to approve it, because it's gonna be more than 500.
And something I didn't mention, the project's actually architect.
Right now.
Any questions from our folks online? For Gary? Okay. Appreciate that. Always good to know things are being updated and turned around. Appreciate that. I don't think there's any other updates at this point. We want to go into the review of the statement of revenue and expenses that are in the back of our booklets. In the middle. Well, back it is. I didn't hear you. Those contracts in the back are pretty thick. The Don or Angela, you can handle this.
I'm happy to go through it. So what you're gonna see on these 2 pages would be something that we call the revenue and disbursement report. There's one for the produce market, there's one for the Maryland Market Center. The column that's very important to our tenants is the column second over from the left. This is the fiscal year to date amount. What we're looking at is how much have we collected in entrance fees at the gate? How much have we spent for expenses that are only directly related to that market? And then how much have we charged the tenants on the second line of their rent invoice for something called service expense reimbursement? If we get to the end of the year, which is June, and then that number is positive in that fiscal year 25 column, we issue a refund to the tenants. Right now, if this was the end of the year, we would be giving the tenants back $100,000. If it was a negative number, then we would collect that money back from the tenants, and we usually do it over 6 months. We usually have at least 6 months left in the fiscal year to try to make it not be such a burden to the tenants all at one time. The reason why there's $100,000 surplus at the produce market is because on July 1st, the produce market tenants voted to increase their entrance fees. So we're collecting more in entrance fees now. So what I would expect to happen is within the next couple of months, as we see this sustained increase, we will be able to lower the service expense reimbursement that's on the second line of their rent invoice, so that at the end of the year, we try to come as close to 0 as possible. It's not possible to be 0, but we do our best to make it as close as possible. Over at the Maryland Market Center, if this was the end of the year, we would be giving a refund of $50,000 back to the tenants. So it's the same concept, entrance fees at the gate. The actual expenses attributed to the Maryland Market Center, there are no estimates in here, these are actual expenses. And then the second line of their service expense reimbursement of their invoices here. So we would be giving 50, but again, we still gotta get to June. So this is where we are today, and we've made it through the winter. Oh my gosh, I shouldn't say that, we probably have 1 more week before something bad happens. I'm sorry, I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
Snow
Have not,
removal is
yes.
contractual.
Snow removal is the thing that can really get us, so I'm sorry, Gary. I apologize. So at the next meeting, I'll tell you we made it through.
Right,
All right, thank you, yeah, that's all. If anyone has any questions.
Just a further clarification. Unlike normal revenue and expense statements, there is no real correlation between how much revenue we get and what the expenses are. So, if you were operating a business where you were setting it up like this, it would probably go out of business very quickly because we're unable to collect all the money that we need to wipe out the service expenses that we're providing to the tenants.
Yeah, regular business would be saying, what's my net income? We're trying to get to 0.
Yeah.
So we're certainly not trying to get net income.
So just, people look at it and they're like, well, how come you're still operating? Because there's times when the revenues are a little bit lower than was expected. And therefore, there's a higher amount of money that the towns have to come up with. But it's all just expenses that are benefiting them. It's a service expense, so. That's it.
I think we need a motion.
Yes. I will entertain a motion to accept the R&Ds as presented for the produce market and for the market center.
So
Motion.
Second,
Can you be back here in a second?
second.
April?
Yeah,
April,
that
thank
was
you.
me. Uh-huh, sure.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
I,
Opposed,
Aye.
same sign. Okay, thank you for those reports. Anything else to be brought forward before we go into the closed session? Okay. So I need come back behind me too. Throw it.
I think they're muted. I mean, not beyond muted, the sound's turned off, so when they speak, even if they unmute themselves, I'm not sure you
Oh,
can hear
yeah.
them.
Oh.
That would be Darren and Ryan need to
Yeah, okay.
But in addition to that, I
The whole
Brian,
thing.
can you?
You can hear us,
see if we can
okay?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
but we can't hear them because it's.
That little, yeah, okay.
Testing,
Testing.
Right.
testing.
Brian,
There we go.
I can hear us, okay?
Getting
I
that.
can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
But we can't hear
I
them
can hear
because-
you on Zoom.
I can hear
And
you.
it-
I can hear the people
and-
on Zoom.
Yeah,
Testing,
and in
yeah.
the conference
Okay.
room.
Yep. Testing.
Brian, I can hear us, okay?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
All right, right.
I think we're good.
Good enough, okay.
I think we're good.
I'll just give you a thumbs up.
Yeah. So is there any further business before we go into closed session? There, okay. I will entertain a motion to go into executive session under general provision, Article 305B, to consult with counsel to obtain legal advice and to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom the public body and Maryland Food Center Authority has jurisdiction, and any personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals. I have a motion to that effect.
I need to read the end.
Yeah, there's one more.
Oh, the missed part, and then I need to.
Yeah, that's.
Oh. It wasn't. Okay. Let me reread that. I will now entertain a motion to move into executive session under general provisions, Article 3-305B, to consult with counsel to obtain legal advice, consult with staff, consultants, or other individuals about pending or potential litigation, and discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom this public body, Maryland Food Center Authority, has jurisdiction, or any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals.
We need to rest that. And at the end of the executive session, a motion will be made to adjourn and the meeting will commence.
Oh, that's right, okay. Yes, thank
So
you.
now you just need the motion.
Now I just need a motion. So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Darren. Okay, thank you. Thank you.